Hey guys, it's Nate, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into part 2 of my vlog series about my custom guitar build. Hope you enjoy. We finished the rough shape of the face, body, and neck of the guitar in the first video, so it was time to move over to the design of the fretboard, which is made out of Indian rosewood. If you haven't seen the first part of the vlog, I would highly recommend it so you can see the process up to this point. I have the video linked right here. The fretboard is a crucial aspect of the build, so it is important that each fret is in the proper position and care is taken so that the saw doesn't slip when cutting them by hand. I clamped a small square so that I can use it to align the blade to make sure it was perfectly square and exactly where I wanted the cut to be placed. Later on, I will make these cuts deeper as it's glued onto the neck, but these initial cuts will serve as a guide to do this later on. With the fretboard put to the side, I focused on the inlay design for my headstock, which you can see here. I wanted the inlay to be my initial, but did not want it to be something you would immediately notice. I also wanted it to mimic the sound hole design seen on the face pieces of the guitar, which is how I ultimately concluded to this design. I made the parts of the inlay in ebony, which is a very dark wood and will complement the headstock lightness. I flattened the piece on the drum sander and took it over to the scroll saw to roughly cut the pieces to shape. After that, I sanded the pieces to get the final rough form. Although these won't be needed until later, I wanted to finish them off to have them ready for when I needed. So here are all my pieces up to this point, and it wasn't until then when I noticed a big problem in my build. I was taking a look at the face piece and found a substantial crack running the total depth of the piece. And here was my reaction. While I didn't know in the moment what I was going to do, I kept on working on the neck, so I cut the ends to the shape that would allow them to be joint to the body of the guitar with the slot that I carved into the body. I then proceeded to glue up the fretboard to the neck, since I could not really do anything with the face. Gluing the fretboard is a crucial aspect as the strength that comes from this and the bonding of the truss rod is extremely important, especially as this will be a glue-on neck, not a bolt-on one. Hence why there was a ridiculous amount of clamps to make sure that every aspect of this fretboard was completely flat to the neck. So the following day, we decided to go over to our local Rockler's store to pick up some new wood for the face and headstock of the guitar. We ended up buying 3 pieces of black limba for a crazy discounted price. I only ended up using one of the 3 pieces, so I'll save the other 2 for a cool project later down the road. We have a crack that ran through, and while we potentially might be able to fix it with epoxy, the last thing I want is to do all this work on the body and everything else, the neck, and then after everything is all glued up, then it actually cracked into a much worse state. So we decided to kind of scrap this, and we're going to remake this with some black limba. So this was canary wood, and actually with the headstock inlay that I'm planning on doing, I want to actually invert one of these anyway. So it kind of was a blessing in disguise. So we're going to start with this. We need to joint this edge to get this nice and straight, and I kind of already started to get an outline of where I want the pieces to be. But let's go get started on trying to remake this. So I started redesigning the face by joining the edges so that when I cut the 2 pieces, they would be flush to one another. I then cut the board into 2 pieces I needed for the face, as well as a third smaller piece that would be used for the headstock. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button to help with the YouTube algorithm. And also, if you're feeling generous, please subscribe and ring the bell so that you'll be notified of my new videos and so you know when the next guitar vlog is posted. Thanks. After the pieces were cut to size, I got to work on the bandsaw to get the face pieces to the rough guitar form. I repeated the same process from part 1 in mapping out the sound holes that would be on the face, but this time I had a little bit more thought that would go into it to allow for the inverted design like I had talked about earlier to match the headstock inlay. I was now ready to head back and get to work on getting the new face pieces back to the stage the old one was before the crack. I started by utilizing the scroll saw to cut out the sound holes. In order to do this, I drilled out a hole which allows the blade to be positioned in the hole rather than the outside edge of the piece. I did this on both sides of the face before moving to drilling the holes that would be used for the placements of the knobs of the guitar. After this, it was time to start shaping the body of the face pieces. Each of these pieces was about 3/4 inch thick and needed to be greatly reduced. The first step in doing this is to reduce the edge of the piece on one side that you can mirror that reduction to the other piece. In order to mirror that reduction, I double-sided taped both face pieces to a thin board so that they were both flush to one another where I could work on them both together. Using a rough carving tool, I began to take down a bulk of the material from the sides. I continued to rotate the piece to make sure that the reduction was fairly consistent before moving on to sanding. In this shot, you can see the reduction that I did on one of the sides of the face pieces. While I was using this carving tool, I mimicked that on the other piece while thinning out the edges like you can see in the rest of this video. Using a circular sander, I was able to finish getting the rough shape smoothing before finishing up for the day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the build up to this point. Please think about subscribing to my channel to get notified on the next part gets uploaded, as well as liking the video for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.